Morning, all, and hey, let's go ahead and talk about Jacob Markstrom because we're in between periods with the matinee games. But if you're not interested in the matinee games, well, here's a video, and there are maybe some who aren't. I'm not going to get into it, but it should be an interesting review if things continue to go the way that they're going. But that aside, Jacob Markstrom, drafted 31st overall in 2008. And you want to talk about a guy overcoming the curse of being the goalie of the future, it's him. Now, I've talked about this before, so we'll talk about it a little bit here. Goalie of the future curse to me is that goaltender is seen as this big, he's going to be fantastic, bigger than life. He's going to be the next big thing in the NHL, and then it just doesn't come through. There's more pressure, I think, put on goaltenders than there is put on forwards and defensemen to, come on, you're the last line of defense. So if there's any holes in your game, well, it's not the same as forwards where you can plug them onto a different line and reinvent them. Goalies, you're either good or you're not. So the pressure on a goaltender is huge. And for Jacob Markstrom, he was drafted into an organization in Florida not known for tremendous successes. So 2010-2011, he makes his debut, plays one game, has one loss, and an .857 save percentage. Not a whole lot to write home about there, is there? 2011-2012, he plays 7 games. He has a 2-4-1 record and a .923 save percentage. It's coming off of that cup of coffee that Florida starts getting excited about what Markstrom's going to be. This is it. He's going to be the starter soon. All the hockey annuals I have from that year, he's their starter. If not this year, then next year for sure. This is it. So, 2012-2013, plays 23 games, has an 8-14-1 record and a .901 save percentage. It's a failure. And it's seen that way. And so Florida starts to kind of sour on Markstrom, as do fans. And at that point, I myself looked at Markstrom and went, well, this guy's never going to be more than just a backup. I don't think he's a starter. So that was the narrative, and this is why you don't necessarily give up on a goaltender. 2013-2014, he plays 12 games, has a record of 1-6-3, and an .874 save percentage. Well, that's not great, right? .874 save percentage, and then March 4th of 2014, Mike Gillis makes a trade that everybody wants him fired for. He's traded to Vancouver with Sean Matthias for Roberto Luongo and Stephen Anthony. And I remember the opinion of that was, well, we like Matthias. Matthias could be that third-line center we need. But Markstrom? We gave up Luongo and you get back Markstrom, who's proven he's not really an NHL-level goaltender. His numbers aren't getting better. So in Vancouver, before the end of that season, he plays 4 games, has a record of 1-2 and an .868 save percentage. There was nothing shown after that trade that season that has Canuck fans going, okay, we understand trading Luongo. Keep in mind, the Canucks had just traded Corey Schneider and given the reins back to Luongo, and now they're trading Luongo, and the following summer they bring in Ryan Miller. So you got Miller, you got Lack, you got Markstrom, and it's a disaster. Who's the Canucks goaltender? How many guys are we going to go through? That's where the whole goalie graveyard thing starts cropping up again. So 2014-2015, before the season started, September 26, 2014, an event takes place that people sometimes argue with me didn't happen, and it did. September 26th of that year, 6 months after they acquired Markstrom, they put him on waivers. Jim Benning puts him on waivers because you have Miller and Lack. And so the choice is, well, are we going to keep Lack, or are we going to keep Markstrom? Well, we can't get rid of Lack. Lack is one of the most popular goaltenders in the NHL. Not just with the Canucks, but just overall in the NHL. Eddie Lack, playing in an outdoor game, had been part of the reason that Luongo got kind of miffed and ended up being moved. Wasn't the end-all be-all. It wasn't the reason. I think there were a lot of reasons Luongo was ready to go. I think he was just tired of the will he go, will he not. And Markstrom's kind of caught in between. Now he's on waivers, so Canuck fans everywhere are losing their minds because now we've got Sean Matthias for Roberto Luongo. And the shine is already coming off of Sean Matthias, this guy that I saw the Canucks forums for years with mock trades of what they'd give up to get Matthias, because he's a big center, and that's what we need, a big center. This is going to solve everything. It's almost as if we as fans don't know better than general managers. He clears waivers. Here's why he clears waivers. He clears waivers because it's September 26th. It's the earliest he can waive him. the absolute earliest. Teams are still deciding on who their goaltenders are going to be. They're not going to pick up Jacob Markstrom and then have a difficult decision to make for themselves. So while Benning likes Markstrom, he shows that by waiving him. And he sits down with Jacob and goes, all right, we're making this decision. We're going to go with Lack and Miller. So you go down to the minors and you work on some stuff and then you'll be back up. Markstrom claims he understands. I don't know for sure that he does, so I'm not going to claim that I know his mind on this. But he goes down. He clears. Plays 3 games with the Canucks when he does get called up. Has a 1-1 record and an .879 save percentage. Not a whole lot to get excited about. And then it gets worse. So Eddie Lack is a very popular goaltender. Ryan Miller gets hurt, and Lack plays absolutely fantastic for the most part. Kind of settles down, and going into the playoffs, he's not playing great. By the end of those playoffs, Miller is once again the starter, but Eddie Lack is a fan favorite in Vancouver. Whatever you do, don't trade Lack. You want to get rid of somebody, get rid of that Markstrom guy. We got him from Florida, and he's only played 7 games, and his save percentage is below .880. So get rid of him. June 27th, 2015, on the second day of the draft, Jim Benning trades Eddie Lack to Carolina for a couple of draft picks, as the team has chosen Jacob Markstrom. And it was between the two. Going into the draft, he was saying, yeah, I'm going to have to trade one or the other. I think he knew Markstrom wouldn't clear waivers again. He wanted to get something for somebody, and he went with Markstrom over Lack. The public sentiment coming out of that move was ugly, shall we say? As I said, Eddie Lack was beloved because the most popular player on a team is very often the backup goalie. And so the goalie of the future is the goalie of the present. 2015-2016 as the backup, he plays 32 games, has a record of 13, 14, and 4, and a .915 save percentage. But inconsistency is a problem for Markstrom, which is why he's the backup. And it's something that causes me to still have doubts at that point. 2016-2017, 25 games played, a 10, 11, and 3 record, .910 save percentage. Again, not fantastic numbers, good. He doesn't... Again, there's no reason to think, well, he's going to be the starter at that stage. Other than, well, they're going to move on from Miller, so I guess Markstrom's the starter. Default. So Markstrom does what he always does. He makes this work. So in 2017, 9 years after the draft year, 9 years after being drafted, he's finally a starter. 60 games played, 23, 26, and 7 record, and a .912 save percentage. And he's all right. Not fantastic, but he's okay. He is a middle-of-the-road starter. And he is behind a defense that's not very good. He's behind a team that's not very good. And his record is decent considering what he's playing behind. Now, 2018-2019, we're up to last year. 60 games played, 28, 23, and 9 record. Now, he has a .912 save percentage that year as well. The honest truth is, the numbers are virtually identical when you look at the save percentage and look at the games played. And all I can say about that is that the eyeball test for Canuck fans last year, it was different. Markstrom was better. Markstrom looked like a starting goaltender. And suddenly, with Demko now ready to take over as the backup, with Markstrom and Demko, suddenly it looks like the Canucks have a pretty good tandem, which wasn't the case when it was Markstrom and Nilsson. And of course, we go through the disaster that is trading out Nilsson and, oh, wait, now what are we going to do with the AHL? But through everything, through any of the controversies that Canucks have been through, Markstrom just goes out and does his job. And he always has a very noteworthy mask. Going to throw that out there. Very noteworthy mask whenever he plays, wherever he plays. And this year's been no different. I love the mask he's wearing now. I kind of hope he keeps that one, but I know he changes it regularly. This season has been something different. 28 games so far, a record of 14, 11, and 3. Not completely out of line with his record last year. Really, in all honesty, it's not. Save percentage of .917. But in the middle of this, he loses his father. And you could tell when he came back he wasn't right yet. You could tell when he played those first few games after that he wasn't 100% in it. Lately, last few weeks, he's been excellent. And what's noteworthy about him, too, is that now he's played 255 games. He has 101 wins, 113 losses, and 31 overtime or shootout losses. A 910 save percentage overall, which is respectable. Career save percentage of 910 and above is pretty good. Career save percentage of 915 or higher, you're in excellent territory. He has fashioned a solid career for himself, and now the question for the Canucks becomes one of this. He is now in the All-Star game. He gets named yesterday because Marc-Andre Fleury steps out and says, I'm not going, thanks, but I'm not going. Markstrom's an all-star goaltender. He's a legit all-star goaltender. There may be some debate from people who don't see Markstrom much, may look at these numbers and say, he's not that good. He's been excellent. He won me over, and I was his harshest critic right back until, well, when this channel started, I was a very harsh critic of just the way the Canucks were handling their goaltending in general. Not anymore. Not anymore. Markstrom's left the Canucks in an uncomfortable spot of some sort here, in that, do you commit long-term to a goaltender who's going to turn 30 in January? Do you give him a 5-year contract? Do you say, all right, you're our goaltender for the next 5 years, and then what message does that send to Thatcher Demko, who's ready to be the starter, I would say, next season? Or do you move Markstrom, is going to be the question. If there's anything we've learned from Jacob Markstrom, he handled the trade very well. He handled being demoted to the AHL very well. He handled being a backup goalie pretty darn well. And honestly, he has shown over his career that he is resilient. He is maybe slow to develop. Might be a really noteworthy item to throw onto this board. That he has been slow to develop into what he was envisioned as the number 31 pick. But he's there. And when you have a good goaltender, an all-star level goaltender, it's tricky because you don't want to overpay goaltending. But at the same time, you need goaltending in the National Hockey League or you're not going very far. But wherever Markstrom ends up, if it's a Canuck long-term after this season, I'm honestly on board with that. Although I do worry about Demko potentially ending up somewhere else if that were to happen. But Markstrom's been fantastic. He really has. And he's handled everything in stride. While this team hasn't been any good since 2015. Basically, since he got here, the Canucks they had the one playoff year in 2015 that he didn't have any part of. And then it's been mostly a disaster since then. And they might be one of the most ridiculed organizations in the National Hockey League. But Markstrom, I don't hear any ridicule of him anymore. You certainly won't hear any from me. And who knows? Maybe he ends up being a starter for 5 more years with Vancouver. And Canuck fans are a lot more open to that now than they would have been, say, right about here. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. For all your support, I got more hockey to watch. I'll talk to you again soon.